Welcome back. We are still covering the Eric Boyd case out of Knox County, Tennessee. Currently, we have the ex-girlfriend of LaMarcus, one of the co-defendants, on the stand. Let's take a listen to what she has to say. I'm also joined here with Gwendolyn Lindsay Jackson in the studio. Gwendolyn, nice to see you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you for being here. Welcome back. Switching to a different trial now, the California v. Michael Cardullo case. We're going to take a look at some of the closing arguments that focus on the forensic evidence, specifically the DNA in this case. So actually, before we get there, the Michael Cardullo case, the Hollywood Ripper as we're calling it, it is again, unfortunately, a very tragic case. Multiple women are accused of being killed by Michael Cardullo. As we look at some of the evidence as to how it plays out, first you, Gwendolyn, how are we seeing this case wrap up? Summations have already come and gone.
Well, we want to make sure that what's left in the juror's mind is that we have all the DNA evidence. We have the evidence of rape, typically blood, semen, bodily fluids, all the evidence that will tie this defendant to these women. And in the mind of the jurors, painting him as the monster that he is and putting him away.
Yeah. And Michael, now to you. We've seen some very curious ongoings in the court where he kind of gave a very awkward, sly smile. I know different people are interpreting it different ways. I want to come to you, especially as a defense attorney. When your client's there at the defense table, how important is it that their etiquette, their persona, their perception to the jury needs to be on point at all times?
Body language is extremely important when it comes to the defendant. I try to explain to my clients that the jury generally will understand that your life is on the line and you're not going to be sitting there with all smiles like you're on your way to Disneyland. But at the same time, anytime that there's evidence that's elicited during the case or testimony that may point you in a bad light, it's not your time to huff and puff and react to the jury. They want to see you, they want to make sure that you have appropriate reactions, that you're taking notes and you're working with your defense team, but at the same time, they don't want to see an overly emotional defendant with those circumstances.
Francine, now to you, as we're looking at this closing argument for the Hollywood Ripper case in California, I'm anticipating that all of the closing is going to be an impassioned, very strong closing argument, not only because of the number of victims, but also the method and the seriousness and the heinousness of the alleged crime. Like, how do you convey that to a jury properly?
Well, I think it's not that hard in this case, actually. I think the facts speak for themselves. They're horrifying. You're talking about 4 women brutally attacked, 1 escaped with her life. That is ultimately the drama upon which an excellent and persuasive closing argument is built. I just don't think it's going to be difficult. And from what we've seen so far of the closing argument by the prosecutor, he's certainly building to that. And with the defendant smirking in the courtroom, which, can I just say, psycho serial killers really can't help smirk because they just don't have the feelings the rest of us have. He's probably enjoying himself in spite of the fact that he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison.
I would agree. Let's take a look at the actual closing arguments and some of the highlights as to the forensic evidence that was heard in this case. A very impassioned, I think very articulate closing argument from the prosecution. Now, before we dive in, I want to make sure that everyone comes back to join us with Rachel Stockman during the daily debrief. We're going to be signing out. Gwendolyn, always a pleasure to have you here, as well as Francie. But before we leave, just a few minutes we've got with you left, so I'm going to take every bit that we can. Gwendolyn, I think he's crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's.
Oh, he sure is, definitely. Yeah. He's showing how methodically clean this victim was. There was no DNA evidence of her family. She hugged her family. Her father cradled her. She's been touched by her family. She's constantly washing her hands. She's a very clean woman. And the only DNA that they find is the DNA of the defendant. It really shows how much interaction he had with her, what horrible, horrible situation she was in, and she had to fight for her life. And his DNA under her fingernails. She was fighting for her life. She was clawing, she was scratching, she was screaming. It was horrific. So this is really going to resonate with the jury very, very strongly. And the prosecutor's doing an excellent job, I think.
Yeah, and Francie, I'm assuming you're going to agree. Is there anything else that the prosecution's got to do here to kind of drive this case home?
Well, they do. I mean, they have to prove that there is evidence that this particular defendant killed all of these women and attacked the fourth. And this is a compelling argument with respect to DNA, but I don't think they had DNA in every case. And so they're going to have to meet that burden to the jury so that they can get the sentence that they're looking for here, so that Gargiulo never, sees the light of day again in what I call a pine box sentence. California is currently not good on the death penalty.
Gotcha. Make sure you come back with us in the Daily Debrief, where Michael, myself, and Rachel will be here.